In this blog entry, I'm going to walk you guys through the nutrition program that I will be following for this year's Ironman World Championships. Now, when we're talking about individual nutrition programs, it's really important to understand that every different athlete, men, women, all ages, sizes, abilities, everybody has their own unique nutritional needs. Some people might take in more calories, some take in less, some take in more sodium or electrolytes, some take in a different blend of carbohydrates. People have different stomach tolerances, what they're actually able to ingest, what's going to be able to stay down versus what's going to come up. So what works for me doesn't necessarily work for everyone. I have some unique needs, and I also have some things that I can handle better than other people out there. So this is just my personal program that I will be following for this year's race. It's also worth noting that the program that I will follow for this race isn't necessarily the same program that I would follow for another Ironman. This year's weather, heat, wind conditions, the length of time that I'm going to spend on the course, the options that are out there on the course, whether they're handing out fruit or Gatorade or cold water or whatever they're handing out on the course, all of these things factor in my decision on what I'm actually going to be taking in for race day. So this is just my nutrition program for this year, October 9th, Ironman World Championships. Now, my nutrition program basically starts the day before, 24 hours before the race starts. So that'll be Friday morning, the 8th. When I wake up, I'm going to start planning for how I want to feel and what I need to have in me on Saturday. What that means is that all day on Friday, I'm just thinking about what I'm putting in my body. I'm conscious of what's going in. So one of the things I make sure that two of the things I make sure I always have with me. I always make sure that I have a salt pill. This one's just lava salts. I get them here on the island, or I order them online. They're fantastic. They have a ton of sodium in them, as well as some sodium citrate, phosphate, potassium, a big breakdown of different salts that your body needs to be able to hold on to that water and flush the water through your body to keep you hydrated. I also always have a product, Noon, along. It's just this little vial, and what's inside are these little effervescent tabs. They look kind of like Alka-Seltzers. You drop them into water, and they're a calorie-free, sugar-free electrolyte replacement. So they've got magnesium and sodium and potassium, and all the good things that your body wants, so that you're not just putting water into your system, but you're also replacing those electrolytes that you're losing just by walking around sweating. So I make sure that I stock up on both of these the day before the race. The 24 hours before the race starts, I make sure that my sodium levels, my potassium levels, and my liquid levels, my water levels, that I'm as hydrated as I can possibly be, and that I have as much electrolytes in me as I can possibly have. I don't necessarily follow a really strict guideline, but basically what I do is at every meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner the day before, I make sure that I have a little bit of extra salt on my meal. I know from personal experience that my body can take an incredible amount of sodium without getting stomach pains or headaches or anything like that. So I make sure that unless it makes me feel sick, I continue to put salt in me. People ask me what I eat the day before, and my answer is one that kind of upsets people. A lot of people like to have really strict guidelines. So this is what I need to eat for breakfast, this is what I need to eat for lunch, this is what I need to have for dinner. I learned a long time ago that what happens to me the day before, the week before, even the 2 weeks before a race isn't necessarily going to increase my speed or my fitness or anything like that. All the work that I did to make me fit and strong and ready for this race has happened in the months before. Back in June, July, August, when I was out doing the long miles on the bike. So what I'm doing this next week is I'm just making sure that I'm happy. That's the most important thing. As long as the day before the race, I'm not, going crazy and eating chocolate cake and milkshakes and things like that, I can put in pretty much what my body wants to have the day before. Couple rules of thumb for me: I tend to stay away from things with a lot of organic acid the day before the race and the day of. I love coffee, but it's not something that works for me about 24 hours out from the race. It upsets my stomach, combined with the nervousness of the race, not good results. I also stay away from greens. I eat a lot of fruit, a lot of greens like spinach and things like that, but I find that when my metabolism is really firing at the end of a taper right before the race, and when I'm really excited about the race coming up and I'm nervous, I'm scared, and I'm excited and happy, all those different emotions are going through me, putting greens in the system is not the kind of thing you want to have going through you. So again, that's a personal thing. I know other people that eat nothing but salads the day before. It works for them, it doesn't work for me. So when I wake up in the morning, my whole rule is just I want to get a good balance of things. I just make sure, whether I'm eating eggs or oatmeal or having a breakfast sandwich or whatever it might be, that at every meal of the day I'm getting a nice balance of protein and carbs. I don't do the traditional carb loading that a lot of people do, where I sit down with bowls and bowls of pasta. But that doesn't mean I don't eat pasta. If I feel like having it the night before, sure, I'll have some pasta. I'll just try to balance it out with some protein, some chicken or some steak, something like that. Again, I'll stay away from things like tomato sauce, and I'll go towards something more like a light butter or an olive oil, something that's going to be easier on my stomach than those acidic foods like tomato sauce, coffee, and things like that. Some of the most successful races that I've had, though, where I find that the night before I get a craving for a candy bar. For whatever reason, my metabolism is through the roof, I'm digesting things really quickly, and I'm hungry, and the first thing that comes to mind is I want chocolate. I want a candy bar. A lot of athletes will say, don't do it. A lot of coaches will say, don't do it. Me, personally, I say it's more important to be happy. Carry that extra 200 calories. Carry that little bit of extra sugar. As long as you know it's not going to upset you, eat it, be happy. You're going to race much better as a result. So starting with the night before, right after dinner, sometime usually about 3 hours before I go to bed, I start a program of acute sodium loading. Acute, not cute. It's not very cute. But acute sodium loading, where I'm getting in a massive amount of sodium to really top off my salt source to make sure that I'm not going to be dehydrated, suffer from the effects of heat exhaustion, or just generally fatigue faster the next day. Now, this is something that I have practiced with, played with a lot, and built up the levels of sodium that I've taken in. The night before, in the 3 hours before I go to bed, I'll generally take in anywhere from 3 to 4 grams of sodium, which any of you athletes out there that have taken a salt pill or just looked at the back of a Gatorade knows that's an incredible amount of sodium, 3,000 to 4,000 milligrams. Again, not something I recommend that people just start off playing with the day before a race, but for me it works incredibly well, especially in hot conditions, humid conditions where I'm going to be sweating a lot. I need to have all that salt in me. I used to wake up in the morning and be nervous, and it doesn't matter how prepared or unprepared I am, I'm always nervous on race day. And I found that I just can't get the big hearty meals in. I am not the guy sitting down eating cereal and eggs and peanut butter and toast and all those things in the morning. It doesn't work, it wouldn't go down, it wouldn't stay down, and I couldn't get in enough calories before races. So what I turn to is one of these meal replacement drinks like Ensure Plus. These things have 350 calories in a little tiny 8-ounce bottle. You get a ton of fuel in from these things, and they're a pretty good balance of fat, protein, carbs, and all of that. Now, I know that my body can handle the fat and the protein and the carbs, so it's something that I'm much more comfortable taking down just 8 fluid ounces instead of trying to get a whole meal in. What I do is I drink one the night before, right before I go to bed. So if I go to sleep at 10 o'clock, I'm drinking an Ensure 30 minutes before I go to bed. I set my alarm for the middle of the night, and I wake up sometime around midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. I drink another one of these. Then I wake up in the morning, usually around 4 o'clock, depends what time the race starts, and I drink a third Ensure. So I'm getting, what's that, 1,050 calories in me in the span after dinner and before the race in the morning. Plenty of calories, gives me the good complex blend of carbs, fats, and proteins that I need to be able to get through the day, and sits in my stomach much easier. In the end, all I'm taking in is 24 liquid ounces, and that's all the nutrition I need before the race. Works great for me. When I'm out there racing, simplicity is really, really important to me. On a great day, if everything goes right, I'm in the water for an hour, I'm on the bike for 5 hours, 10 minutes, and I'm on the run for 3:10 to 3:15. And that's if everything goes great. If it's a really hot day, a really windy day, or things don't go perfectly, which they rarely do, you can be out there for a lot longer. So the less weight that you're carrying, the fewer objects you're carrying, and the fewer things you have to play with, the better off you're going to be. So with that in mind, I try to keep my bike setup to a minimum. I carry on the bike with me 2 bottles that are attached onto my frame, and then one here in the front, this Aero bottle. In these 2 bottles, all I do, they last me for the whole race, that's my nutrition pretty much, is I do a super saturated solution with about 500 calories per hour of nutrition. It's a complex blend of complex and simple carbs, a little bit of protein, a lot of salt, a lot of potassium, and some of the other electrolytes. I put scoop after scoop after scoop into the bottles, drizzle in some water, and it makes this really thick, almost gel-like substance. Put 2 of those bottles on there, that's 1,500 calories, which is enough to get me through the 5-hour ride. And then at every aid station, which there's aid stations every 10 miles or so on the course, and they hand out water, Gatorade, things like that, at every aid station I'll fill up this bottle in the front with the ice-cold water that they have on the course. So basically, every 5, 10, 15 minutes, I'm reaching down, grabbing a bottle off my frame, squirting some of the gel into my mouth, and then washing it down with the water in the front. Now, that gets a little boring. The gel by hour 3, 4, 5 isn't going down great. It's hot. The stuff has been heated up. It's not the best taste in the world when it's so thick and there's so many scoops in there. So I like to have some other extra things up here in this bento box in the front. You know, I'll carry a gel. I'll carry some of these sport beans that are like little jelly beans. I'll carry some of these blocks, which are just basically a harder jelly substance. All of these things have not enough nutrition to get me through the race, but it's enough to mix it up for me. So I'm not just taking in liquid, I'm getting a nice little mix. So if I want jelly beans, or if I want blocks, or if I want gels, I can get those in also and supplement my nutritional intake for an hour or 2 hours if need be. Now the last thing that I always carry with me when I'm on the bike and in the run is I carry one of these little vials of Nuun. They're great, they look like little coin holders or something, but what they're perfect for is I just fill them up with a bunch of these little salt pills. And you can see these pills are pretty small. They go down really, really easily. And I carry this on my back in one of my pockets the entire race just in case I feel myself cramping up or I feel like I'm not getting enough salt in and I need to make sure that I'm staying hydrated. I pull this out, pop 1 or 2 of these pills, and I feel great within a few minutes. That's the bike nutrition for you. Pretty simple on my bike. I know a lot of other people that will go and they'll line Cliff bars or power bars all along their top tube, and they'll put sandwiches in their special needs bag, which they pick up halfway through the bike course, or they'll put, you know, I've heard people doing peanut butter and jelly, I've heard people doing candy bars, I've heard a whole mix of things out there on the bike course, and that's great. If it works for you, it works for you. Bottom line is make sure you get in enough calories and make sure you get in enough electrolytes and that you're always as hydrated as you can be, and you're going to be okay. For the marathon leg of the Ironman, I like to keep it as simple as I possibly can. I come in off the bike, drop off the bike, put on my shoes, grab a gel flask, and grab my empty vial of Nuun that has salt tabs in it, and I'm off for the run. The gel flask is a lot like the bottles that I use on the bike. I will pour scoop after scoop of powder in, fill the thing to the top. I get about 275 calories per hour out of my run nutrition blend. It's a little bit different than the bike. It's a slightly different blend of carbohydrates, and there's no protein in my run blend. Makes it a little bit easier on the stomach when you're bouncing up and down, running down the hot open road 6, 7, 8 hours into the race. A little bit easier to get down something without the protein, a little bit less fat, and a more simple blend of carbohydrates. So I'll fill this thing to the top. This gets me through the first hour and a half of the race. I'll drizzle in some water, mix it all up, and again, get that really thick, gelatinous kind of substance. Then what I do is that every aid station, which on the run course here, they're about every mile, every 1,500 meters every mile, something like that, I'll take a shot of this right before the aid station, grab a cup or 2 of water, wash it down, and I'm good to go for the next mile. I prefer this to just taking in the traditional gels because a gel, you have to get a lot of stuff in you at once. It's a full 100 calories in one shot, and usually you're taking them in every 30 minutes, every 45 minutes, maybe even every hour, depending on how well your stomach can handle them. Didn't work great for me, but I found that by using a gel flask, I could get in 20, 25, 30, 40 calories every 5 to 10 minutes, instead of taking in this huge shot of 100 or 150 calories every 30 minutes or every 45 minutes. So goes down a little bit easier, and I feel like it keeps me more energized throughout the race, keeps me more on that flat line instead of spiking and getting these peaks and valleys. So that's my nutrition program for this year's race. Things could change a little bit depending on what happens with the weather. I might take in a little bit more salt, a little less salt, a little more liquid calories, a little bit less solid calories, but for the most part, that's the program that I hope to be following on October 9th for this year's race. Hopefully it gives you some good ideas and some things to play with in your own nutrition program. But bottom line, what I tell any of the athletes that I work with, any of my clients, is play with different things. Make sure that in the weeks and months leading up to your race, you have days dedicated to practicing what you're actually going to do on race day. Eating the way you would eat on race day, taking in the same nutrition you would eat on race day. You can do all the training in the world that you want to do, but if you don't have the right nutrition to support that training program, and you don't have the right nutrition to support that racing program, all the training in the world won't help you on race day. So you need to make sure that you know the kinds of calories you can handle, the amount of calories you need, the amount of electrolytes, and the form of all those calories and electrolytes to ensure that you're going to be able to put that training to good use and have the best race you could possibly have.